switched, that way they just would stop and have a look. So I've never seen a kid have so much energy. It was fun to watch him.
Oh, it's time. Okay. I hereby call this meeting to order. I'd like to thank today's presenters, everyone joining us in person and or via Facebook Live. And I have it right here for our pledge today. Ariana Long. Did I say that right? Ariana Long will lead us.
Already begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ariana. Okay. All our board members are present. There are a couple addenda items which include additional information on human resources activity, media report, and community relations update, and an Idaho General Fund revenue report. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addenda.
I move we approve the agenda with the addenda.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, that motion is passed. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And the minutes include an executive session, student discipline on September 15, executive session, student discipline, real property, and special meeting to consider adopting the ESRA 3 funding plan. And that was on September 29th. A work session and executive session on real property and personnel. That was on October 12th. Special meeting, student representative orientation, 2 of them here tonight, thank you. October 19th, a regular board meeting on October 19th, and then executive session, student discipline on October 27th. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes as read.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion is passed. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes authorizing the payment of claims, approving the supplemental financial information, and approving the amended human resources activity. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the
Okay,
motion.
any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none, all in favor, that motion is passed. Next is recognitions presented by Courtney Fisher.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, trustees, Dr. Howell, Ms. Johnson, and student representatives. Tonight, we will recognize several individuals who, through their actions, support and embody our district's mission to think more, learn more, and be more together. First up is our Cake Awards. Our district believes that a safe, supportive, caring, and respectful environment is critical to student learning. The School District 25 Education Foundation, in partnership with McDonald's, supports the Learner of the Month Award to recognize one elementary learner and one secondary learner from our district from October through May. The Cake Award celebrates positive character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement toward others. In addition to being recognized here at the monthly board meetings, the recipients also receive cupcake-themed treats, and if one good thing has come out of COVID, it is our new awards that go to the schools. We're doing a cupcake kit that the learners, the recipient can take home and make cupcakes with their families. It's darling. Shauna and Tara put that together for us, so this is the one good thing. And then they get treats to share with their peers as well. Nominations for the Cake Award are submitted by a teacher who has observed the nominee's behavior and are approved by the school's principal. So first up, we have our elementary learner tonight. Please help me welcome Avery DeGarmo and her teacher, Mrs. Marissa Holverson, to the podium. Hello, and thank you. And would you stand up here so our board members can sort of see you while I tell them about you? Mrs. Holverson, thank you for joining us tonight. So Avery is a second grader at Tyhee Elementary School. And in her nomination letter, Mrs. Holverson wrote, I'm so sorry. I just assumed that name. I should have checked. Avery is an amazing example of kindness in my class. He is always kind to others, learners, and is helping them. He is very proactive by helping in the class without being asked. He will clean up the room without being asked. He is always willing to help pass out papers or clean up balls on the playground. He is kind to other kids on the playground and is a friend to anyone who needs it. He is also kind to his teachers and other staff, and he is a great example of being proactive and helping others. So Avery, in addition, you get this certificate tonight, and then we'll be visiting your classroom, or Ms. Holverson will grab the treats and to share with your classmates. We think it's really important that you get recognized among your peers, so that because you're such a model of good behavior, we want that to be contagious. You're also going to get a gift card from McDonald's, both you and your teacher, and then you're going to get $50 donation to your library in your name, and you get to help pick out those books, which I think is such a cool aspect of this award. And that's also supported by Pocatello McDonald's. So will you help me congratulate Avery as our Elementary Learner of the Month? And if you will walk and let our board members congratulate you as well, just kind of go through the line. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Way to go.
Thank you.
However, whatever.
Thank you. Next up, we have our Secondary Learner of the Month. Please help me welcome Ariana Long and her teacher, Mrs. Jennifer Tuttle, up to the podium. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You also get this certificate. Ariana is in the 12th grade at Century High School, and she was nominated by her teacher, Mrs. Tuttle. In her nomination letter, Mrs. Tuttle wrote, "I have a student who is amazing and meets the requirements stated in the award. It is Ariana Long. Every day she helps her classmates with materials they are not understanding. She is always kind and teaches them in a way that anyone could comprehend. She always asks us first if she is allowed to answer the students' questions. We usually let her go and watch her in awe. My most challenging students. Are you going to be a teacher?" No. I thought that sounded like a future educator. So, Ariana will also be recognized among her peers with a treat for everyone in your class. You and Mrs. Tuttle will also receive a gift card to McDonald's, as well as that cupcake kit. And your school library will receive a $50 donation in your name, and you can help select those books. So, congratulations, and please help me congratulate Ariana. And if you'll stay and thank you for your example of kindness, character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement.
For that. Just do that.
Thanks, Brady.
Of course. Thank you so much.
And thank you.
Okay, next up we have our November Employee of the Month, or PIES Award, and our recipient this month is Mrs. Jennifer Park, and here accepting the award on her behalf is New Horizon High School Principal Amy Prescott. Mrs. Park was unable to join us tonight. She was nominated by her colleague Garth Carlson, who was also unable to join us tonight. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the nomination. Mr. Carlson wrote, "When thinking about someone who should receive recognition as an outstanding member of the School District 25 team, one person shines above all others. That is Jenny Park. Jenny is the English interventionist at New Horizon High School. Jenny always has a positive attitude and goes above and beyond, helping students be successful with not only their English assignments, but in life. Jenny is always on time, and she is rarely absent from work, and even though she has a difficult life outside of school, she never lets that detract from her work." And she gave us permission to share this part of the nomination as well. Ms. Park has a daughter that has a rare condition that causes serious medical issues that require 24/7 monitoring, and this often leads to long and difficult nights. Her daughter often has as many as 7 or 8 seizures an hour. She also has a young son to take care of. Despite her stressful life, she is an example of perseverance to both staff and students. Jenny is always gregarious and kind, going out of her way to be supportive of staff and students. She is a role model for students and for her friends and colleagues at New Horizon Center, and we are lucky to have her as part of our NHS family. So Ms. Park will also be receiving a $50 gift card, as well as Mr. Carlson will get a $20 gift card if you'll make sure they get those with the certificate. They also, that $50 and the $20 is courtesy of our educational partner for this award, Lookout Credit Union. So please extend our wishes and wish she would have been able to be here tonight, but extend our congratulations. And if you'll let the board share their congratulations with you, that you can pass on to her. Thank you so much.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Mrs. Prescott. That concludes our recognitions for this month. Thank
Okay.
you.
Next is our student reports. And Dominic, you're up, but first, would you, okay, I would like you to introduce your guest.
Oh, this is JJ Anderson. This is JJ Anderson. She is my co-president with me.
Okay,
She will be speaking on behalf.
okay, great. There you are. Did you get that name down? Everything okay?
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Howell. My name is JJ Anderson, and I'm co-student body president at Century High School. My co-president, Dominic, and I are eager to fill you in on what has been happening at Century the past couple of weeks. Our student resource officer reached out to our student council to establish a drive to collect turkeys for the food bank. We invited the other high schools to team up in collecting money for turkeys, and Highland is participating with us. So far, Century has raised over $400 across our classrooms, and we are rooting for Highland as they too raise money. In addition to helping the community, Century has been running a canned food and necessities drive for our Diamondback food pantry that helps our own students in need. We have a week left in the drive, but so far we have collected over 1,000 food and toiletry items. Century Student Council just finished up freshman elections. Each candidate had to write an essay, be interviewed by other student council members, campaign with posters, turn in teacher recommendations, and compete for a popular vote. 10 kids completed all of these requirements, and we are excited to have these new and ambitious freshmen in student council starting second trimester. On Thursday, Century will be having our annual roundup. It's the biggest fundraiser of the year, and all CHS clubs, activities, and organizations come together with fellow students, parents, and generous members of the community to raise money for the school through a silent auction, raffle, and food provided by our very own CHS outdoor program. We want to personally invite each of you to our event. We would love to see you there, and we'd love for you to all see the work that is put in by our very own students, staff, and parents. It's a really fun event. New this year at the Roundup will be a giving tree. The giving tree is an opportunity for Century families and members of the community to help us in our attempt to buy and provide holiday gifts come December for Century students who would not receive them otherwise. This is a part of a huge school-wide participation that the Student Council is in the process of organizing. We call this our Holiday Hunger Games. In the weeks leading up to winter break, students come together and buy wishes to raise money for these gifts. We are excited to update you and tell you more at the December meeting. As far as overall academics, athletics, and activities go, we are preparing and studying for finals next week. We are in the midst of and approaching basketball and wrestling tryouts. Diamondback Dramatics is preparing for a competition next Friday, and last night our musical theater program had their big showcase. Lastly, we are proud to report that our marching band took first place at state, our volleyball team took 5th place at state, our swim team took 5th and 7th place overall, and one of Century's boys relay teams won the state championship and set a new record. That's all that's been happening at Century the past couple of weeks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. And you can stay with us for the rest of the night, but you can also be excused. Yep, thank you. See you next month. Okay, next we're going to talk about federal program budgets report by various directors. Who's coming up? Chuck?
Gretchen?
Gretchen, haven't seen you in a while. Welcome. Gretchen, okay, let's go.
So I'm assuming your the budgets are in order that they're listed on here. So I'll start with Title II. The Title IIA allotment for the 21-22 school year is $447,288, which is about $10,000 more than last school year. Districts are allowed to carry over 25% of its allocation, but we've been granted some flexibility over the last couple of years because of the pandemic. Our carryover as of June 30th, 2021 totaled $120,426. Which was slightly more than the 25% that's allowed, but districts have until September 30th of each year to draw down the carryover balance, which was easily accomplished for us. With the new allocation and carryover, the total budget for 21-22 is $567,714. The budget supports a portion of several staff members' salaries and benefits. These are folks that are pretty integral to our professional development program. And you can see those salaries listed on the first page of the budget. These positions are very similar to what we've included the last several years, with the exception of the addition of a secondary special education teacher consultant. And these funds are picking up a portion of that position, which was greatly needed to provide additional support for our special education program and our teachers. Title IIA funds are also used to support our new teacher support program, including stipends for teachers who serve as a mentor for new staff members. The budget also provides for stipends for instructor salaries for professional development classes that are offered by the district. At the bottom of the first page, you'll see the set aside of our local private schools. The private school allotment of slightly more than $18,000 is an amount that is determined by the state. On page 2, $70,000 have been set aside to support professional development for all of our non-Title I schools. And under district professional needs, closer to the bottom of that page, you'll see the set aside for the PLC Plus training, which I've spoken to you about in past meetings. That was provided to our building leadership teams and teacher leaders in August, and then the rest of our staff during the October Professional Development Day. And the remainder of the line items in this budget is consistent with expenditures from past years. Any questions about Title II? All right.
That's a lot. Well, thank you.
Am I next?
I think Rhonda.
I'll scoot over, Rhonda.
Perkins.
I'll move my chair up a little bit. Well, hello. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm always excited to tell you about CTE and all the wonderful things that are happening. But tonight we're talking about Carl Perkins funds. This year our district received $202,000. And we're using the majority of that money to buy equipment to bring us up to industry standard again. You know, end of life happens with mannequins or with different things, computers, and we just have to have better equipment to try to simulate that real world experience. So the majority of these funds will go to that. We're focusing a little bit on professional development because our teachers haven't been able to attend anything for quite a while now. So we're putting some money into that. But other than that, that's about all Perkins. Nothing too spectacular. We'll have to wait till the next round to get to all those fun program things. Did you have any questions about anything or?
No,
All right.
I've seen it before.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Yes, you're up.
Good evening. Federal programs projected budgets. Pretty exciting. We've got some great things and some new additions. So starting at the top, our traditional Title 1A improving basic programs. Our projected allocation for the 21-22 school year is $2,572,000. That's down slightly from last year, and as Mr. Orr stated, we have been allowed additional carryover. So we have been working on that, and it made up for our slight decrease. You can see to the right, we are the flow-through for Bannock Youth Foundation Bannock House. So they received an award of $16,500. So that goes to salaries of direct care staff at Bannock House, which is our neglected facility. We've set aside $26,500 for family engagement. A chunk of that will go to our STEM night in the spring. Our carryover, and then the rest flows to schools, the majority of that paying for staff at each of our Title I schools. Next, our Title I-D neglected delinquent budget. Once again, we are a flow-through for those two facilities, Juvenile Detention Center and Youth Development Center under Bannock County, and we have a great working relationship with both of those facilities. As Mr. Orr stated, our private school partners, the state now determines the amount allocated to each of those. And so total $35,805 will flow to Grace Lutheran Holy Spirit and Pocatello Valley Montessori this year. Moving down our English learner program, you might have remembered last year I talked about the increase. We have currently 178 identified English learners in 19 languages. The state provides the language acquisition budget of $30,810, and then we are now, not now, we have been Title III, $16,799. In that program, we also get support from our general fund, which pays for our certified teachers. Next, we have Title IV, which is student support, also neglected delinquent. And that goes to a real variety to help across K-12. So some to New Horizon, we're working closely with our DARE officers. It supports the Summer DARE program, as well as some initiatives that the DARE officers are working on now. It also supports our 2 secondary community resource workers, meeting the needs of high school and middle school students. The bottom 4 are pretty exciting. About 6 weeks ago, we had the honor of hosting Diane Nyland, who is responsible for the actual writing of the legislation and passage of McKinney-Vento at the federal level. So I want each of you to know, we spent the day, she toured our schools, she met with our social workers, and Ms. Nyland has lived in a Mercedes Sprinter van for 17 years and traveled the country. And she said of all the places she has visited, we absolutely rank in the top 5 of what we're doing for our kids. So she's making a documentary, and as soon as we get the first showing of that, I'll make sure that you get it about the 1st of December. So you can see with our homeless, first of all, we set aside a percentage of our Title I-A allocation, which helps support our community resource worker collaborative. We then were awarded additional grant money. The $37,320, that's been fantastic. As Ms. Naff stated, we haven't done a lot of professional development lately, so we've dedicated some money to our social workers to help them go to some new trainings and professional development opportunities. We have been able to increase our pantries across the district, working with the Idaho Food Bank, and just overall supplies and needs for our kids and families. The final 2 at the bottom are new. The $75,814 ARP H2 grant is really targeted for identification, awareness, academic success, re-engagement, and wraparound services in our community. And then the bottom ARP1, we wrote as a school district, our social workers helped me with that. And that money allows us to go a little bit beyond just educational needs and truly helping families with housing and rental assistance, transportation, and wraparound services such as dental, medical, vision, etc. So we're in great shape in federal programs.
Sounds exciting.
Any questions, Ms. Gebhardt?
What's the number looking like for the number of homeless or?
Pretty consistently in our district, we, over the course of the year, average about 300. I met yesterday our 10 social workers. We had our monthly PLC, And they're definitely seeing increased need, mostly in housing. That's been extremely difficult. Properties being sold, rents being doubled. So, but I can absolutely get you current numbers for elementary and secondary.
But it's a bigger need than most of us recognize.
Oh, absolutely.
Are they still doing the program, the online program? I forget the name of it, where you can call in and they have needs and people in the community can.
Oh, like Perposity?
Yeah, Perposity.
Yes,
That's
yes,
what-
we're still using Perposity.
Still using
So that's an
Perposity.
app. And so they'll post on there, for instance, we've had a need for bunk beds. And so, yes, that is still being utilized.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can, because I've had more people ask me, about that, and maybe, I don't know how you advertise that or promote that, in the community a little bit, but some people, I think, have kind of forgotten about it.
That's a very good point. When we launched Perposity, that was advertised, so I bet Ms. Fisher and Ms. Sprague would be happy to re-advertise that for us.
Because I think that was a really good program, and I knew a lot of people who would check in with that, and then for a while there were no needs, a lot of things that said no needs at this time or things, and so I think it would help to maybe have a little more advertisement again about it.
Well, and to the credit of our community, weekly, we have people contact who have donations, and we just had to get an additional storage facility because we've had a lot of generous patrons donate, and so we just store those until they're needed.
Until they're needed.
Any other questions?
You carried over more than the 10%?
We did.
Okay, and you've asked for it, and it's been approved, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, all of our carryover caps were waived due to the pandemic.
Okay, yeah, it's good to hear. Well, is that it? That's all you have for us?
That's all I've got.
Okay, well, thank you. You're by yourself, but
I guess I'm by myself now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I am here to report on the special ed budget for the school district. The forms you have before you on your docs we're in the process of going through our application right now. And so there are numbers next to the zeros. They have numbers in them now. But I just wanted to share with you that the majority of special education money does go to the salaries and benefits for teachers and aides in our school district. That's both for school age and for preschool. Another area that it goes to support is our private school. The state allocates so much money for us to be able to serve our private schools in special education services. One thing to note is that a percentage of our fundage has to go to significant disproportionality. That's where the identified Native Americans have been identified as significantly disproportionate, identified as a specific learning disability. So we had to take, that's 15% of the whole thing, and spend it. And so that went to a lot of curriculum and time and effort of our teachers and aides and SLPs and those individuals. Are there any questions?
I always find this significant disproportionality ironic, to say the least. I mean, they're here, so what do? Send them away?
No, we do our best to serve them. We've gone through a lot of trainings to see, especially concerning our Native American population. We've gone through trainings and other professional development. We purchased some great curriculum that I've heard is just amazing, and teachers are really happy with it. And so, with that, hopefully we'll be able to, identify, more than just the specific learning disability, and we'll be able to get, to the root, I guess I could hope to say.
Yeah. I still find it.
It is very, very difficult. Just in my observation or just collecting the data, last year we were at like 40, we were at 50. This year we're at 31, so we've decreased, but our Native American population has decreased as well, so. Any other questions?
No, I don't. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And let's see, next up is the media report and community relations update from Courtney Fisher.
Hello again. Just have a brief report for you tonight. In your addendum is included the links to the articles as well as the media and community relations report. There are several headlines of interest that I wanted to draw your attention to. Idaho has likely hit its COVID case peak, top officials say, so that's good news for all of us. Another article, Idaho Senate Tax Chair pitches plan to phase out school supplemental levies. I imagine many of you have already seen that one. We also just published a media release, Advantage Plus Federal Credit Union presented an $80,000 check here at the district office to our administrators and high school athletic directors. So
Now,
we
I
got
have a
them
question.
some. Sure.
Wasn't that for middle school?
No, we are
No.
also doing middle schools. That's in addition to.
In addition?
So
Okay,
so
because I was
each high school gym has the Advantage Plus logo on the gym floors.
Okay, so it's both.
And so this is for the high school.
School.
And I believe that Ms. Wilkes is working on the other contract, and we will do a separate promotion to give Advantage Plus credit for that one once it's finalized.
The middle school is on your agenda
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
High school was approved 2 months ago.
Okay.
Right.
That's why I was,
So we're really excited about that. Those logos look great on the floor, and that's going to be very beneficial to our program. So we appreciate Advantage Plus and their support. Another article of interest, the Student Empowerment and Accountability Bill. The CDC signed off on COVID vaccine for younger children. K-12 enrollment rebounds. Virtual schools see declines in Idaho. And then this one was really interesting. A former Century graduate was recently named a Rhodes Scholarship finalist. So make sure you isn't that wonderful? It's great. And as far as some of our reporting, our live stream board meetings on October 19th, that regular board meeting saw 453 views, down a little bit, but still pretty good viewership. So we hope that continues, even as we have less controversial meetings. Social media, over the past 28 days, we have almost 10,500 followers on Facebook, 436 followers on Twitter, almost 1,200 followers on Instagram, and 345 subscribers on YouTube. Google Analytics for the last 28 days, we had just about 33,000 users in 53,000 sessions, and almost 60% of users are accessing our site via mobile, so just under 40% on desktop. And then we always look at our most frequently visited pages. We had almost 100,000 page views, with home being the top at 29,000. PHS Home seems to be consistent, which I'm looking at that because we always look at what schools are doing to continue to get people to visit their websites. We want to replicate that across other schools as we engage in our new web development, so that's of interest to us. Our elementary food services is always popular, looking at those weekly menus. The weekly case status report continues to be in the top 5. Food Service Administration, Board of Trustees elections, we did a page for that, so that was a top hit over the past 28 days. HR Administration, boundary maps, Franklin Bell schedule, and Highland Bell schedule. As far as community relations, I just wanted to alert you to a couple of things. As we roll out this new, we're really getting pretty deep into the website development. So we wanted to do engage our parents and our staff members and our community in finding out that to make sure that our expectations for that website development are in alignment with our community's expectations for what that new website will bring. So we did a really brief 5-question survey, and we received almost 600 responses. So I'm really pleased with that result, and it seems like the surveys that we've done lately have garnered really good support and engagement, so happy to report that. That will remain open through the end of this week. And then also yesterday, the Ed Foundation, we had a board meeting, and at that board meeting, we approved $12,500 to support that next STEM up in the spring. So as Ms. Kinghorn mentioned, that they'll support some of that through Title I or II, I believe, and then Ed Foundation is also going to support that as well. So we're excited about that, and we use the Idaho Gives money that we raised in that campaign to continue to support that. And in addressing Mrs. Craner's question about Purposity, we still do promote Purposity on our website, on the homepage. It's right when you pop up, we have that homepage gallery. There's about 10 slides, and that's one of the 10. And then we can also look at putting that back in the rotation on our affinity screens, which used to be called Jeeves, but there's about 60 screens throughout Pocatello at Gold's Gym, various restaurants, other stores. So that's a constant way for us to promote what we're doing. We used to have that in the rotation, but as summer hit, we switched out that rotation to really kind of drive hiring. And so, and then we also promote our Cake Award winners and our Pies Award winners on those screens. But we can certainly look at adding Purposity back, especially this time of year when we're entering the giving season. So
That's what I was thinking. Thank you.
okay, and that's it for me, unless you have any questions.
No, you're
right.
free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for curriculum and instruction, school safety and athletics. The first up is Jeff Proctor. He's going to talk to us about policy 6306. Oh, okay.
Good evening again.
Mm-hmm.
Included in your packet is policy 6306, special education for students with disabilities. The proposed change adds a paragraph in regards to free appropriate public education, FAPE, which is a required component of a school board policy. The board will be asked to adopt the policy on first reading under action items in accordance with policy 22102, which gives the board discretion to adopt policy changes in a single reading.
Okay. That's quick. Any questions? Anyone? Well, great. Thank you. We were, okay, well, fine. Hi, Chuck. What do we have? Oh, another policy.
Hello again.
This
You have-
one's different. It's on third reading.
Right. So you have included in your packet policy 6101 curriculum. Proposed changes removed outdated processes and added language relative to the teaching of sensitive topics and academic freedom. The policy was posted for comment after first reading, and comments were received, as you know. As a result, changes were made to the policy, and it was presented to you for second reading in September. The changes are highlighted in yellow, and no additional comments were received. And the board will be asked to hear the policy on third reading for adoption later this evening under action items. Any
Okay.
questions?
No,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank
No.
you.
Lori Craney.
Good evening. For the Head Start report, for the ERSI report, at the end of October, the program was up to 168 children. They've been working to enroll 3-year-olds. There are no more 4-year-olds on the wait list. They've enrolled all of them, and they're enrolling 3-year-olds at this point. 2 classrooms are mixed age and serving children from 3 to 5 so they can accommodate the younger children. The The attendance in October was 82.41%. Student illness and lack of transportation were the top reasons for the absences. For personnel, the openings, they have a full-time classroom aide and various part-time classroom and bus monitor positions still open. They have hired 2 new staff in October, and they're anticipating hiring 2 more right before Thanksgiving. Policy Council, the parent representatives will be seated this Thursday, and the council will elect officers on that day. And for the facility update, Mr. Balls is working to get an RFP ready, and so that as soon as we get the approval from the Head Start for that carryover that we brought to last week, we'll be able to get that out and get bids out there and get those modules there. We're coming up on the anniversary, 2 years, November 11th. Yeah. So we did walk the property with Ms. Losmack and Mr. Balls and Mr. Spidell, and so we've got marks out there right where we want it. So we're really anticipating that we can get that done.
Good.
Hopefully soon. Okay, next for my next report is the after-school program. We have 162 learners enrolled. They are near full capacity. Jefferson, Washington, Irving, and Lewis and Clark grant is up, and the conditions for the grant will be coming out in December, and then it'll be due in January for that grant, and we'll be bringing that to the board. For the food backpack, there's the chart is in your packet there. We have 771 food backpacks that were distributed during the month of October. You'll note that Alameda does not have any. They've been using their pantry to provide food for their learners there.
Is that the reasoning? Okay. I was wondering why there's 3 on here with a lot of 0.
Yeah.
And Gate City and Green Acres.
Well, Green Acres, so we have to check on the monthly allotment there. So, and we have, Desiree Brown is our new receptionist out front there. She started yesterday. So she's calling to check and see if it looks like the allotment must have gone to them so that they have 12 backpacks every month, but we haven't gotten the updates yet to get on the chart here. So it'll be more accurate next month when she's able to be on top of that and to get that. We know how many have been distributed, but some of those others, there is a gap there in that. So they do have allotments. You can see that every school besides Alameda did pick up an allotment for October, and Alameda's was through the use of the pantry, so learners didn't go hungry.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sue Pettit.
And I can tell you, Alameda did pick up their allotment. He picked it up late, but he did pick it up. So they'd been using their own pantry stuff to fill in already. But so for today, we have some early graduation requests to graduate at the end of first try. There are 8, and they've all been talked to about staying in and using some advanced opportunity money, and they've chosen no, they'd like to be finished and get on with what their plans are for the rest of this year to get ready for next year. So, okay.
It doesn't make
Question?
sense. Most of them were going to save for college.
Yes, I know, but
Do you think they
Try
just got used to working
I think so.
with all the COVID things, and a lot of them just don't want to?
They have part-time jobs, and they've been offered full-time, and so they'd like to continue on with that. So,
Okay.
Good evening.
Hi, Tanya.
Mr. Chairman, Board, Dr. Howe. I got a couple of things to share with you tonight. First off is the out-of-state overnight travel. I know you have the athletic winter schedule there as well, so I asked them to submit information and forms if they're going out-of-state and overnight. We kind of got excited on some of these. They're not out-of-state, but they submitted them anyway, so I did not deny them.
I noticed that. I think that's the first time I've seen that.
Yeah, and more just to make sure that we're all communicating really well, and like I said, they turned in more than they had to, which was surprising and delightful for me. I think you can see that we got lots of things going on after last year. We're pretty excited to start moving forward and do some things with the kiddos. Do we have any questions about any of those?
I thought the one they were going by flight, that was interesting to me,
Yeah.
but it's probably cheaper.
And that's
Right
what
now.
they found. There's a flight out of Idaho Falls, Allegiant
that's
to Las Vegas. It's pretty cheap. And the reason they've been doing that tournament, last year they didn't go, but it's harder for the Pocatello and Century to pick up some games, and this gives them a great opportunity to get multiple games in. Okay. And then we have the suspension report. It is down from last month. This will be fluid and flexible, I think, as we get closer to holidays and so forth. We're finding, behaviors increasing on certain days. I had DDRC today and tomorrow, so that just indicates that we need to have some conversations, but we're doing lots of good things and able to have those conversations and bring in all the community partners to the table as well to make sure that we can support these kiddos.
But still seeing an elementary student with a vape is distressing.
I can almost guarantee they have a sibling. And we're definitely looking, I have a counselor at the middle school level that's created some type of curriculum to help support that so that it's not, a consequence in thinking that we'll just help with the behavior, that we do have some resources. So we're working on that. There's not a lot out there for that young. And so it's tough to be appropriate and supportive.
I've noticed too that a lot of the districts around the state are joining in the lawsuit,
Yes.
as we did
Absolutely.
a couple months ago, and which,
And I appreciate
They
that.
can't
Absolutely.
move fast enough, though.
yes. And
I agree.
And I thought, it's so, everybody's seeing it around, and
Mm-hmm.
we really need help as far as that goes, and so.
They had too much time on their hands the last year and a half, and so I agree. I think, we talked quite a bit about it in our administrative meetings and so forth. Our ninth graders haven't been in a normal setting since seventh grade. Full year, sixth grade, seventh grade at the end of the year was interrupted. So that's, and even our eighth graders never had a full year of middle school yet that was complete. So we're getting back into those.
Yeah, I just think hopefully we'll get so many schools join that lawsuit across the nation that we can get some
Support.
support and needed help there.
Yeah, I agree.
You think that vaping increased because they were not in school?
A lot of the students that I've communicated with that we see in front of the DDRC panel was they went through, if you will, a mini depression, being home and so forth. Elementary, we never did interrupted their days, but we saw an increase with the secondary, which trickled down, I think, to their siblings. But self-medicating.
Yeah.
But we're doing lots and lots of good things. Just like, Ms. Kinghorn had mentioned, we're doing lots of good things. And because we're recognizing and identifying and bringing them to the board, we're able to educate beyond just the classroom with helping these students. So it's pretty awesome, but it's tiring, but it's pretty awesome that we're able to identify and help some of these students. And with children's mental health working with us side by side, we're doing a big impact in our schools.
I was on Judge Murray's meeting via Zoom.
Sorry, I missed that this morning.
And we were hearing that across the board. I mean,
Absolutely.
what a gift that community prevention meeting is. Because
Absolutely.
it has brought people together. But what we're hearing is it's been a pretty trying time in all those extra resources.
So I had the University of Oklahoma call us through a Zoom over crossover youth and what do we have in our community, and as I was explaining all the different programs and what Judge Murray has done and what we have done, and they're just like, oh my gosh, we could learn from you, so that was reassuring that we're doing lots of good things. But it's secondhand trauma is tough, and so taking care of each other is important as well. But I did notice the notes on there that they had misquoted Miss Lacey about some of those things, so I had them correct that. We do have a high suicide ideation rate, not a high suicide rate. We have a high suicide ideation rate, which to me tells me we're doing lots of good things. They're talking to us, and we're getting them help. Any questions on the winter schedule? We got a busy, and hope to see you, basketball season.
Sure, it's here.
And you will see these signs on the basketball courts from Vantage Plus. And as they were donating the awesome gift to the high schools, I pulled them aside and I said, did you ever think about the middle schools? And they said, absolutely. So they said, actually, that would be ideal. We would love it. We'd like to offer the same, funding for one gym court at each of the middle schools. And they realized that they would get lots of viewing from the public and city all day long. Saturday, the city events going on with Little Leagues and stuff. So the youth.
Makes sense.
So that's the last thing on my agenda here for you is that Advantage Plus Credit Union wanting to extend the contract to the middle schools. So we wrote them all into one, and there'll be like a 5-year contract. And the middle school athletic directors asked that they'd, issue their funding each year, partly because they didn't want the lump sum of money. They wanted to be able to spread that out and make sure that they're supporting each year as they come through, which was awesome. Any questions?
No?
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
You bet.
Jonathan.
Good evening. Good evening, Board Trustees. Just a few reports for you. Again, the Idaho General Fund Revenue Report, you can read through that. Just the second paragraph is all I really need to read. Fiscal year to date, total general fund collections are 14.4% ahead of forecast. So it does look like the upcoming legislative session that we'll have some extra federal and state dollars to appropriate. So that'll be very interesting session to watch.
Sometimes that just means, I've seen that happen other years, it just means they drop fund, they let the state fund, the federal government fund us and drop their funding for education. So I hope this means they're gonna put more into it,
Correct. We'll be anxiously watching that as well. The next report is the enrollment and capacity comparison report. Again, we took the end of last year's enrollment compared to 2 years prior to that, just because last year with enrollment and the different things happening there, we wanted to get a kind of a true comparison. Again, you can see that some schools decreased and actually some schools increased in capacity in their buildings. Overall, this is something that we watch very closely, but I think we're still doing good in all of our buildings in regard to capacity.
So this was the end of last year?
Correct. This is the end of last year.
Because I was reading Carl's report, and it varied a little.
Correct. It was a little bit different.
Yeah, so I thought, I wonder what the difference.
And we can do that. I'd ask that, since we're comparing the 18-19 school year, that we compare the apples to apples. And so
Right.
that was the end of 18-19, and then we decided, well, let's just go the end of 2021. Correct.
Okay.
And so numbers are a little bit different as enrollment has increased a little bit this fall, which we're happy for, but it did not significantly change. The next report is from our insurance company, Morton & Company. The Senior Vice President, Chad Randstrom, kind of detailed just a myriad of different things. I'll highlight maybe that third bullet. Pocatello Chubbuck School District loss performance continues to be excellent. In the current policy term, there have been several losses reported, but none that were severe in nature is currently reserved by ICRAMP. Again, school district staff continue to do a great job of managing the risks faced by the district. Again, you can see what he's outlined, different things that they've seen nationally and here in Idaho as well. Again, we're looking, property claims come largely from winter-related incidences, and so we'll look to the weather and and be ready for that as well. Any questions on that kind of state of insurance?
It was a glowing letter.
Yes, yes, it was.
Very nicely written.
It was nice, yeah.
It's
And
a nice way of telling us that we're gonna pay more.
No, he's usually,
don't see
he
that.
usually comes, I'm surprised. when-
correct, I think just with everything, that's where he sent a letter. Hopefully next year, maybe
Yeah.
he'll be able to come down there. So, and lastly, this is just, the district's, response, to you from, Superintendent Howell and, Director, Ms. Craney and myself regarding the, Pocatello Community Charter School. Again, you heard from them last board meeting. But just wanted to get this report in front of you, that again, everything is great with them regarding their financial audit report and their annual performance framework report, which is their academic side. They are doing a great job there. We are offering our services to help them, but they really haven't needed as much as their Dean Mendive and Miss Flores do a great job over there in the way of finances and academics. Any questions?
No?
Okay,
Thank you. Carl Smart, Employee Services.
We were making comments about our shirt color choices today, and we, say who called who to make sure we wore the same color. Unfortunate, but it happens. But anyway.
I'm thinking maybe we should all dress in.
Yeah, maybe you should send out a memo ahead of time. Huh? All right, enough said there. 3 short items on my section of the agenda tonight, and the only one I really would like to share anything with is our IC report. Of course, we did an IC submission last month, and we are in the process of doing another one as we currently speak. It's due a week from Friday. And Doug happened to ask me yesterday, maybe, about how our attendance looked. And these are just very preliminary numbers, but based upon the reports that I generated this afternoon, and we anticipated this, it looks like we will be protected. And based upon that, or based upon the report, it doesn't look like we're the only ones being protected, because when you look at the statewide protected unit adjustment, it's over 3%. So that's a fairly significant hit to all of the districts that are utilizing part of their units to fund protection. And so after we get this update done next week, we'll have a little bit better idea of where we're going to lie, because this submission actually will determine our salary apportionment. And so, but as we anticipated being protected, and we are using some of the ESSER funds to maintain our FTEs, because that was one of the things we wanted to do in order to maintain our educational product, if you want to call it that. And so we are using some of those funds to keep our FTEs and help our students be able to learn in the classroom. Student enrollment, you have that in front of you tonight as well. As you can see, we're about 12,000 students. Our ADA, kind of going back to this IC report we just talked about, our ADA is right around the 91, 92% range, which is a little lower than usual. So Mike and I will probably end up needing to look and review that a little more, because that is a little bit on the low side from what it's been in the past. And so we will get into a little more of the details there, but 12,000 students, 90 some odd percent ADA equals, as we talked about before, some protection. So Any questions on any of the data you saw in the enrollment section there?
No.
All right. Because we're a little earlier this month, we don't have our conversation we usually have about our insurance and the utilization of our insurance. But we do have our stewardship report from Lockton and Company. And as you all know, Lockton, we've used them for several years. I couldn't even tell you when we started using Lockton as our consultant in the insurance arena, but this is their annual stewardship report to us. And you're very capable of reading through it, so I'm not going to read it to you. But there are a couple of places in here I would like to make a note of. On page 4, it talked about the benefits of their negotiations this year for our insurance package. And so we were able to save, based upon their negotiations with our medical carrier, this is medical only, just shy of $400,000 in the renewal, which is a significant amount of funding. And of course, we usually meet with Lockton and our medical carrier, Pacific Source, every January. And we didn't do it last year. We are planning on doing it again this coming January, where we're going to have all the players back in town and have a discussion about what we need to focus on our benefit plan and see how it's going. As you've seen over the last several months on our reports on the utilization of our medical plan, it's been high, really high, and extremely low based upon the utilization. So come January, we'll have a better idea where that average might lie, where we might be, what we might be looking at in the way of an increase. So with that being said, that'll conclude my report tonight, unless you have other questions or comments about some of the data you have in there.
No, thank you. Brenda Minor, Human Resources.
I know, it's not my color.
Good evening. I wanted to visit with you a little bit tonight about a couple things that we've been working on with our staff. The first one is policy review, and the policy review this year went out on July 22nd. I beat it by 1 day from the year prior. So to give plenty of opportunity for people to have time to complete, and it was due October 31st. I extended that deadline and tried to give them every opportunity possible, and so they were able to complete that by Monday of this week. When I went in and looked at it, we had 1,608 people who completed an average of 14 or 15 modules. The modules range from reading district policy to watching videos on such issues as suicide prevention, Title IX, homeless reporting, and a course dealing with the stressors of COVID and giving some ideas on how to handle those kinds of stress. I think sometimes I even had one person comment it was more stressful for them to have to watch one more module, but I told them I thought it was worth it. The completion rate was wonderful this year. It was over 99.5%. There are a few people who haven't completed it, and those are for people who have worked less than 30 days, and so that have worked less than a month, and they have another 30 days to complete that. Another area that's kind of difficult to get people to complete is sometimes some of our employees that are seasonal coaches that are only in the building, certain times of the year, and so just making sure that they're working on that. And just, I think every time they saw an email from me, I think they cringed a little bit because I'm a little bit of a stickler on making sure that they get this completed. So I just want to thank everyone, and sometimes it's hard to remember that we need to do this every year so that we can just have that refresher course, and also that those are guidelines that we have to complete some of those courses on a yearly basis.
I did hear a comment from one of those such people that, anyway, about they couldn't believe all the stuff they had to policies.
Right.
They had to review and, you know, that they hadn't worked in this particular kind of arena, you know, and
Right.
so they were really shocked at the huge amount of read.
Right, there is quite a bit of reading, and like I say, it's one of those things that it's a good refresher. I know sometimes it's like, I've seen this video or I've watched this before, but I think it's good. And again, it's important because it is a responsibility, a professional responsibility to complete those. So,
Yeah.
okay, any questions on that, on policy review?
No?
I'll be honest, I'm glad that we are complete. So the next piece that I have to visit with you about is really exciting. This talks about our IPLPs, our individual learning plans that we have with all of our certified staff. This plan's a personalized goal that's based on the staff members and where they want to work professionally. This goal can be taken from any of the 4 domains of Charlotte Danielson's framework for teaching, and then they can choose one component to work on from that domain. Now, some teachers, the really kind of a nice thing about this ability to have that happen is, let's say that they're after a first observation, maybe someone sees an area that they think, maybe, you know, let's have you make another goal, and they can make another goal and work on another area that they feel is important. But when you look at this, the emphasis here is now on how will your learning increase from achieving this goal. Now, this has been really hard for our certified staff because they want to put in what the students are going to do here. But the whole purpose of this goal is for their professional growth, which fits perfectly with visible learning. It fits perfectly with our PLC Plus professional development that talks about the you piece. Like, what are you going to do? So a lot of principals had to take the time to go back and just visit with them about what is this going to do for your learning. And so then they provide evidence through the artifacts that show how their goal has been accomplished. And again, we want our staff to be examples of assessment-capable learners, which defines learning in the terms of, I know where I'm going, I have the tools I need for the journey, and I'm going to monitor my progress. So just being a role model for what we expect from our learners. And so those IPLP goals were due October 22nd. In addition to the IPLP goal, they also have certified staff has a measurable student achievement goal, and this goal is written in a SMART goal format, which means it's specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-bound. So an example of that would be 70% of 5th grade learners will move a category or maintain proficiency from pre-test to post-test on an interim assessment for numbers and operations in dealing with fractions. So the teachers in this goal goes along with as far as being able to move on the career ladder, that teachers must demonstrate 75% or more of their students have met their goal for them to be able to advance on that career ladder. Any questions on that? And so now our administrators are working on completing the first of 2 observations with our teachers, and the first one will be completed before Christmas break. Questions?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not really a question, Brenda, but a comment. I think if people think that our teachers don't have to do much, they're just not aware of all the things that they have to do.
Right, and that's why I thought when I was actually putting this together today, I was thinking what a nice opportunity this was for us to see some of the kind of behind-the-scenes things that they have to do, and for that professionalism for their growth as well.
And it
Thanks.
was interesting on our school visit last month. The principal was hurrying really fast because she needed to be doing finishing her observations, and she was going to observe teachers, you know, and so
Right.
it's just, you know, they're all really busy.
They really are. And it's, I think, one of the hardest things for our administrators is when they schedule an observation or they have one planned and something comes up, because I'm sure that they just think about what that teacher has put into planning, or her nerves, especially a new teacher. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brenda. Superintendent.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 items for you tonight. First up is our calendar, and with an abbreviated month of November, with the break in there, and then also December, we have some time off for holiday break. We do have student discipline hearing tomorrow evening here in the boardroom, and so we'll start there. Thursday, Veterans Day, and I don't know about that Ed Foundation meeting. I think they actually had that yesterday. So, not that, yeah, so I think we're good. Yeah, okay.
How many the discipline hearings do we know?
Just one.
Just
And then
one?
one report.
One report, okay.
And next up, Tuesday, the 16th District Curriculum Committee, that will be at 8:30 a.m. As far as I know, that's a go. If it changes, I will be sure to have Mr. Orr let you know.
Please.
Okay? All right, and then that afternoon, Mr. Balls tentatively had Wednesday down, but we knew that a few of you would be going to ISBA, so I asked him to reschedule that, and he did for Tuesday rather than Wednesday. SIP committee meeting, and I believe that's Mr. Facer and Mrs. Craner? Or is it Mr. Manton?
Were you going to do that?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think you wanted to do that.
Yeah,
Okay,
one last time.
so the two of you, that will be your first meeting, and I think there's a follow-up we have down the page here for December as well. And then a few of us will be attending Wednesday through Friday, the ISBA convention, and I'll get with you and we'll figure out travel arrangements, but all hotel accommodations and registrations have been paid, and so we're all taken care of that way. Masks are required, or a negative COVID test that you can take for no charge at the convention. So just to make you aware. Again, that'll be Wednesday through Friday. Then we have a break coming up the week of the 22nd. Student discipline hearing scheduled December 1st. And board school visits, December 7th. Pocatello High School for two of you. Syringa for one, and then two at Washington with me.
Mhm.
And that takes us out to December 8th, second SIP committee meeting in the conference room, 2 to 4. And then we have, again, district curriculum on the 9th, and then regular board meeting on the 14th. And then we might slip another one in there. I'm hoping that the last that we've heard in regard to Pocatello High School is a tentative, and I'm going to say tentative, all caps, boldface. December 9th is the date that they're projecting. And if that be the case, then we would look at an open house or reception the week of the 13th. And get the board in there to welcome people to the new addition at Pocatello High School.
Be a good Christmas present.
Yes, it would. Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's where we're headed, and I hope that they can meet that deadline. When we met with the superintendent last week, I think it was, Mr. Balls and I went over and met with Mr. Reed and the contractor, Star Corporation, and actually that gentleman said that he thinks it will be looking very good by the end of November. So I hope they can maintain that. They had a crew here from Denver that were working on the flooring, and they were going to work through this last weekend, and hopefully that has been completed, and that'll just be kind of some finishing touches. Furniture the first week of December, and we're hoping.
All right.
Do they have the elevator to go in yet? Do you know?
Yes, it appeared to me that it was mostly in.
It is in, but just not operational quite yet.
Okay, yep.
But it will be.
So when will they start using those classrooms then?
Potentially, we could be looking at when we return from break.
Yeah. Give 'em
So
time to
we
look
might be able
over
to
it.
do something on that Friday in regard to a day that the staff could move furniture and their personal items and resources and instructional materials. So we'll have to keep you posted on that.
Would be a wonderful Christmas.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, next up is our outline for board work session with legislators. And Ms. Johnson is going to be working to secure us a date for that, but as normal or traditional, I should say, we will be looking at the end of November. Usually we try to meet on a Monday because there's less activities, so perhaps I think it's the 29th or the first part of December, but we'll keep you posted. You can see, and any additions that you have, we'd love to put on here. But we'll talk a little bit about our successes with advanced opportunities and literacy funds, leadership premiums, as Mr. Orr presented tonight, the professional development that we're able to offer through state PD funding. And then you'll see some concerns that we have. Some of these have been, we've just carried them forward from years past because they hear a consistent message from us. Support all-day kindergarten and preschool, special education, increased services and funding. Policies, this one's a new one, policies on teaching sensitive subjects. Mr. Orr talked to you about policy 6101. You've seen that 3 times now. And we think that that's important that we talk about that in our current climate. And then we'll talk a little bit about reliance on supplemental levies. As Mrs. Fisher talked with you this evening, you know, a couple of interesting ideas are being thrown out there. And so we want to make sure that we share our concerns about those. Supermajority on bond elections. There was, at least as it was presented to us, that with the election consolidation for the November, all, you know, board trustee here, elections, that there might be some give on that supermajority, so we'll share that again. A little bit of a challenge is this mid-year adjustment that we're going to make with the board's part of you stepping away and new ones entering in January. We've noticed that in terms of budget and even with ISBA and some of the additional support that they're able to provide, usually we have the summer to work through some of those things, and it just seems like everything's been expedited.
Well, the other thing that I wondered about with regard to that is, you know, I don't think in the whole time I've been on the board, we've ever had 3 trustees leave the board at the same time. This is a challenge.
It is an interesting time for sure, and I've been in communication myself and Ms. Johnson with ISBA to talk about what we can do with regard to training. In her last conversation with Ms. Cologne, who's a new member of ISBA, we talked about that summer institute that's usually offered, and
July.
they maybe need to think about that and move it up so that we can offer our board members at least that opportunity. Yeah.
You know, one other thing I wondered about, I mean, I know it's our meeting with them, but I was wondering about the new redistricting with our legislators, and maybe they could address that, or have them kind of address and clarify that and their concerns. I know they have concerns about that whole issue that they can maybe express to us too, so we can understand too what they're facing and where they're coming from. I thought it just might be a good time.
When I looked at this too, one of the things that I thought about is I know that the new trustee possibilities have not been sworn in yet, but in many ways, I think it might be valuable for them to be present when this is set up, because they'll need to know what those concerns are.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how you deal with that, or.
Well,
Yeah.
so many of these things, you know, if we were elected and then had the summer to prepare, all of this stuff would fall into place where it belongs.
Right.
But the changing of the timing
In the middle
is terrible.
is really difficult.
So in that change, yeah, okay, thank you.
And they certainly need to, I mean, it's really gonna be difficult for them.
Yeah, as we roll through January, February, and March,
Yeah.
and the JFAC meets and other things.
You know, Day on the Hill, and there's just so much,
Yes, yeah.
so much more than is really projected out there that goes on, you know, so.
Yeah, for sure. Next up, K-12 funding, that's always a concern, and there has been some ideas presented, but we like how it worked last year on membership or enrollment, And Mr. Balls will be talking to that, as well as the state revenue discussion, which goes hand in hand with the PSAF and maintaining that operational funding. Someone mentioned it earlier, Mrs. Craner mentioned that earlier. When we get some dollars from the federal government, then we saw last year that the operational funds were reduced. So we'll be talking about that with them. Carl will be talking a little bit about IC reporting and just the number of times that we do that and how redundant it is. Mrs. Minor will talk about the staff depletion, applicant pools, classified salaries, experience for professional staff in related fields. We know that hiring those ancillary folks, nurses, speech, OTPT, that's pretty difficult to get someone to come out of, the medical field.
Come out of the paid field.
And start at the low end of a certified salary schedule. So we'll talk to them more about that. We have presented that in the past. And then healthcare premiums. And then, of course, resolutions, and then comments and takeaways. That will be our meeting. And we have those other two suggestions here.
It's interesting, I was talking to a woman 2 days ago, and she's getting her master's in speech pathology and things, and she was telling me what all that encompasses, and she got into it because her child had special needs, speech in elementary, but there's no way she wants to work in the school system because their pay's so awful. And I just thought, how sad that is, that we can't attract people who, I just because of salaries, they can earn so much more other places, and we really have needs. I told her, well, we really need people like you, in our school system, and it's just tried to encourage her to think beyond that.
Yes. All right, Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my report.
Okay. Next is on the agenda is time for public written comment pertinent to agenda action items. I've received no written comment or no request from the public to speak, so we'll move on. We'll now move to the action items. The first item of business is to hear the first reading for adoption of policy 6306, special education for students with disabilities. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear on first reading for the adoption of the following policy in accordance with policy 2102 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, that motion is passed. Next item is to hear on third reading for adoption policy 6101, curriculum. Is there a
I
motion?
hereby move that the board hear the policy 6101 on third reading for adoption.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, that motion is passed. The next item of business is to approve the early graduation requests. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the early graduation request as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion is passed. The next item of business is to approve the out-of-state overnight travel request. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the out-of-state overnight travel requests as presented.
No, second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion is passed. The next item of business is to approve the winter athletic schedules inclusive of travel.
I hereby move that the board approve the winter athletic schedule inclusive travel as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, fight for that. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion is passed. Next item of business is to approve the Advantage Plus Federal Credit Union sponsorship agreement.
I hereby move that the board approve the Vantage Plus Federal Credit Union sponsorship agreement as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion is passed. Final item is to approve the Pocatello Community Charter School financial audit and pragmatic management letter and direct submission to PCCS.
I hereby move that the board approve the PCCS financial audit and programmatic management letter and direct the administration to submit the letter to PCCS as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion is passed, and that concludes this meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That motion is